and thank you for viewing the August 10th special meeting of the Arcata City Council. As you know, the City Council meeting is being held as a teleconference in response to local efforts to reduce the spread of the COVID-19 virus. We want to thank the community for their efforts to slow the spread of COVID-19 in Arcata. We are all seeing the increase in cases throughout the state and the nation, and also here in Humboldt County. We want Arcata to show the world that by supporting masking and social distancing, we can keep our curve flat, our community healthy, and businesses open. Please support safe shopping by masking up in Arcata. Public comment was accepted by email and in writing for items that were on the agenda for this special meeting. They will all be read at the beginning of the meeting. So could you do a roll call, please?
Mayor Winkler.
Here.
Vice Mayor Patino.
Here.
Councilmember Watson.
Here.
All present.
Well, Councilmember Pereira is absent, of course.
I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. You have a quorum with one absence.
Mm-hmm. Public comment. Do we have any public comment for this special meeting?
There was no public comment received for the special meeting.
Next is consent calendar. All matters on the consent calendar are considered to be routine by the City Council and are enacted in one motion. There's no separate discussion of any of these items. If discussion is required, that item is removed from the consent calendar and considered separately. At the end of the reading of the consent calendar, council members or members of the public can request that an item be removed for separate discussion. Item A, declare a continuation of the local emergency related to the coronavirus pandemic. B, adopt resolution number 201-07, approving a grant application to California Wildlife Conservation Board for Carlson Park Mad River access improvements. All right, are there any members of the public who have asked that an item be removed?
There were no requests for items to be removed from the public.
And no requests from staff to remove any of the items?
No request from staff.
All right, Paul, why don't you go ahead and ask your questions or make comments on the items that you removed from the consent calendar.
Okay, Michael, on item B, the Mad River Park, at the end of that, page 8, 8 of 26, they describe the accessible vault toilet to be part of the project. And what does that mean? What does that mean to me, accessible vault toilet?
Okay, this is Mark Andre. I think I can answer that
Thanks.
question.
Thanks.
Accessible, you should state ADA accessible. You know, a vault toilet is the type of toilet that has to be pumped out. You see them often at campgrounds, picnic areas, state, county. So this is a one-piece unit that gets installed with a vault that gets pumped out by, you know, instead of a porta potty. It's a lot more durable structure, aesthetically pleasing. So vault toilet just means that it has a below ground vault that stores septage that gets serviced periodically, rather than a restroom that has flushable plumbing that's tied into the sewer collection system.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make clear that it was not a green toilet, B&B toilet, that it was actually something that was much more permanent.
Yes.
And that's my question on B.
Any other comments on B?
I don't have any questions or comments on B. Thank you.
So Michael, do you want us to vote on A, B, or do you want to go ahead with C and D and then vote on the whole mess?
I would like to have votes on individual items because now they become separate agenda items.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve item B.
Second.
Right, we have a motion and a second. I will poll the council members. Vice Mayor Patino,
Aye.
Councilmember Watson,
Aye.
and I vote aye, so that passes. So next item that you pulled is item C. Go ahead, Paul.
Okay, on item C, you know, at the end of that again, it mentions a monthly report to be sent to the city on the West Green wastes, you know, this whole contract with HWMA. I'd like to see that monthly report also go to the city council.
Yeah, we can do that. I guess the question, this is Mark Andre, Environmental Services Director. I have Julie Neander, the deputy, is also online for this. And I can talk to city manager about how that could be, you know, via your mailbox or periodically reported in terms of the trends. You want to just note how it's used.
Yeah, Mark, I'd like to get a regular report to the city council, and maybe we could just start out the monthly report be added in the staff report section of the next meeting so that we can look at it and say, okay, what are we doing here? Is it something we need to look at often, or are we getting our money's worth, or is it something that we can just look at once a year?
Okay.
I'm just not sure. So I'm going to lean toward getting more data stuck in the, you know, the staff reports. It could be stuck right in there. And then once we've done it a couple of times, we can understand, do we really need it a lot, or is it something we can hear once a year?
Councilmember Patino, I just wanted to add, so this is an item that is intended just to maintain the service, as you know,
Right,
out
right.
at West Green. The council has also requested a larger conversation around solid waste and recycling. So the dates
Okay.
that the mayor and I have talked about are, you know, tentative, as we don't know exactly what else will come up. But we did talk about a September 2nd meeting. We would have HWMA and Recology come and just do an overview of the current services and sort of the current conditions, market conditions around solid waste and recycling. And then some time placeholdered on your second meeting in September for a council discussion around changes that you'd like to see short-term, long-term associated with, you know, primarily the Recology franchise agreement, as they've, you know, now been operating after having taken over the franchise agreement from Arcata Garbage for, you know, almost 2 years. So that's sort of the time frame. This is sort of you know, just to continue the current program, recognizing there may also need to be larger discussion around the whole system.
Yeah, I understand that. I just, one of the things I don't want to get away from is looking at how that operation can be run more efficiently. You know, at this point, it's fine. It's something that happens, but you know, I'm not so sure that running it forever without a weigh station makes a lot of sense. Okay, so to me, it's like, if the cost of the weigh station is X number of dollars, can we look at how many years it would take to you know, subsidize that, and think about how many years we've been doing it without that? And you know, it could be a valuable thing to do, and maybe not. I don't know. But that's my biggest concern about the whole green waste, is actually making it make sense. So somebody pulls in, they've got a truckload. Somebody comes in, it's a real fluffy truckload, and they both are counted as one. You know. So I'm done with that. I'll accept those that September meeting. That's fine. Thank you.
Mhm. Before we proceed, I think we should go back and also have a motion on the rest of the consent calendar. minus items B, C, and D, and have a vote on that.
Okay, Michael, I'll make that motion. I move that we approve the consent calendar minus items B, C, and D.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Watson,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Patino,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Okay, going back to Cena.
Oh, okay. So I'll make a motion on.
I got some stuff too.
Go ahead. Sorry.
That's okay. No, thanks for bringing that stuff up, Paul. I didn't think about any of that. First, I just want to clarify in the background paragraph, it refers to Mad River Hardwoods as MRH. And then I also see throughout, there's also an MRHW cited, and I was wondering what the difference was between those two. For example, in discussion number 2, there's MRHW. And if you know what that third organization was.
It's actually Mad River Hardwoods. The HW is Hardwoods instead of Mad River Hardwoods, MRH. So it's really a typo that should have been caught and wasn't.
Okay, thank you. And then let's see. Also in discussion number 5, where it describes the service for registered customers as no charge. You know, unless I need to clarify my understanding of that a little more, I feel like it'd be more appropriate to describe it as no additional charge. I believe our ratepayers are paying for some green waste service.
That's more accurate. Yeah, it's no additional. It's already being paid for in your bundled service, so it's not an additional charge to what the ratepayers in Arcata are paying. You're correct.
Okay. Let's see. You know, and I guess down in let's see, discussion item number 7, it refers to the 10-year agreement for green waste drop-off and processing services between HWMA and MRH. I wasn't able to find that agreement. I don't see it in the packet, so that's definitely, you know, since we referred to it in the discussion, I definitely, you know, must be of enough importance. So that's something I definitely have time to review before moving forward with this. And you know, I also just need more clarification on the 5% administrative fee, on the rate study, how that'll be implemented, who's going to do the rate study. And I think just in general, it looks like this staff report might be able to use a little more polish. And, you know, I have some other things that, you know, I can just spend time going over with staff between now and the next time we bring this back. And I think the last thing is, you know, all of these contracts, I'm really interested in, I have been for some time, is having an independent attorney be able to look at our contracts and give us feedback on it. Because I know right now, you know, we do have an outstanding city attorney, but she's so in demand that she ends up having to provide service for a lot of customers in our region. And, you know, she's also providing service to HWMA. And I think just for, you know, just to do our own due diligence, it'd be something that I'd very much like us to give direction to staff to get that independent analysis. I think these contracts have been around a long time. We're also entering into a new one. And to me, it would just be prudent of us. Those are my comments. So I guess.
Can I ask you a question on that before we get off of it? Brett, are you saying on all our contracts separate, or just the HWMA, Mad River Hardwoods contract?
Yeah, I think you know, really just the HWMA and City of Arcata stuff, where we're sharing the same council. You know, this is really the only thing that's come up for me that, you know, I've always, you know, kind of wanted an independent analysis of. And I think it's just, you know, it's prudent. I think you know, it would be best practice because it's such a big deal, I think, for the citizens of Arcata, for our culture when it comes to recycling and waste. And I feel like it's, you know, this, like this one agreement goes back to 2013. I know, we've had longstanding contracts with HWMA in the past. So that's just, because of the scale, the amount of money that's involved, how it affects all of our ratepayers. I think the importance of this issue, recycling and waste collection to our community. In the contract, it's like 30 pages. So it's not like a really long contract. I don't imagine it costing us thousands of dollars for a review. If it comes back that it's a crazy expense, then, I'd reconsider that. But
Okay, so let me say this. I'm just trying to encapsulate what you're asking for. You want Mad River Hardwoods, the HWMA, and how about our independent contract with the Recology, that whole mess?
Really,
All
anything?
three of them?
Yeah, I would be open to that. But it's whoever. I don't know that I don't know that we share the same council with Recology, and
I understand that we don't. I mean, I'm not saying that we do.
Sure.
I'm assuming we don't. But
yeah,
if we're going to talk about all of these, there's such an interconnection between Recology,
right,
HWMA, Mad River Hardwood. I mean, I think we need to kind of look at it in a bigger view, and then say, now do we want to look closely at Mad River Hardwoods, HWMA?
Yeah, that would be my preference. Honestly, that would be my preference. And but I'm just trying to recognize the current state of things, or resources. I mean, it's really whatever we're comfortable with as a council. So to me, it's like the minimum I'm asking for is would be just HWMA in the city. But that would be my preference, is, as you said, to look at that big picture and everything that's all the contracts that are intertwined.
So maybe for the coming agenda or council meeting, we can look at a response from the staff on what we're asking for.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
So can you turn that into a motion? And also deal with the proposal that's before us as item C. In your motion?
I would move. I mean, I don't know if we I don't know if we need a motion. I feel like what we're talking about right now is just to basically continue this discussion at a future meeting, at the next immediate meeting. I mean, I can make a motion, but I feel like really we just want to continue this discussion, because right now, without more understanding, without access to the contract between in discussion item number 7, without better understanding of the 5% administrative fee, the measurements, why we decided December 1st, 2019 through the end of next year, those things. I mean, I'm not comfortable with an affirmative vote right now. So I don't necessarily need to make a motion. I'd be happy with continuing this to a future agenda, to have that discussion, or give the staff the opportunity to polish this up a little more and to get some of those answers back to us in more detail, as well as their the analysis Paul referenced.
What I would suggest is making a motion to continue this item and put in specifics of what you want staff to do between now and when this item or related item is continued. Okay.
So I will make a motion to continue this item to the next council meeting as the mayor sees fit, and as part of that discussion to have the staff come back with a more polished staff report, and what council member Bettino said. I'm sorry, Paul.
Well, it's fine. It's fine. I think we just need to take a look at it again.
Yeah.
And I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Vice Mayor Patino?
Aye.
Councilmember Watson?
Aye.
And I vote aye. And then I just request the city clerk record that we have Councilmember Pereira absent on each of these votes. Right. Next is item D. Could you go ahead on that, Paul?
Yeah, on item D, as I understand this topping that we need to put on there, it has to do with the humidity of the concrete that was poured by Danco Incorporated. And I'm looking at, did Danco meet our specifications for the humidity content, or did we have any specifications for humidity content in our contract with Danco? So that's my question is, these guys say they can't put it on there because the slab's too wet. Is it because Danco didn't meet their humidity requirement, or we didn't have one, or we didn't actually, maybe we weren't aware that we had that? So maybe somebody can respond to that.
I'm happy to respond. So we were concerned about humidity just because that site itself is relatively wet, and when we worked with Danco on it, we did put a vapor barrier underneath the concrete, hoping that that would solve the problem, but it did not. So Danco did work with us and did everything that we asked for and put in the specs. When we got the quote for this surfacing, it was in the quote then basically saying that for the manufacturer to guarantee the surfacing, the relative humidity had to be at 75%. And it's a standard thing when they put it on, they always test before they apply it. We did that, and our humidity came back at like above 90%. So this is the way that you fix that, so you still have a guarantee on the surfacing. You do this additional treatment on the top to make sure that the surfacing will then still be guaranteed.
Oh, you're
I understand. Yeah, I got it. I understand factually what you're telling me. I'm just saying, we know it's a wet area. Just a vapor barrier may not have been a prudent thing to do, in my mind, in the sense that we know it's a wet area. Just a vapor barrier may not do it. So maybe at that point, we should have done something different. I don't understand that you would use the same vapor barrier as you do in a dry area and say, that's it, well, that's all we can do? Or was there some other consideration? I'm just concerned about this. It doesn't seem like, no conditions have changed. We all know where it's going. We all know how wet it is. It's almost like putting it on water. So maybe the vapor barrier, in my mind, may have been obviously insufficient, or maybe there's no way of putting a vapor barrier there. But I don't understand that. I'd like to be told that.
Well, the design also did raise the elevation of the slab so that it was higher. So I'm not the engineer. I would certainly defer to Natra, who's certainly supported us. But when we worked on the design and we worked with the engineer on the design, those were the different approaches that were presented to help make sure that we would meet that requirement. But ultimately, it depends on doing that final test. And I think that it's not unheard of for them, or they wouldn't have put it in their quote to begin with, that this is something that does occur when building a concrete slab and then surfacing it.
Okay, yeah, I understand that. I just, it would be a real tragic thing to use to surface this slab and then realize that they're not going to guarantee it, even though we have met this other requirement.
So, Paul, this is Natra. I think what Julie said is absolutely right. And when we got the initial design, I think we were concerned on that it is in the wet spot. So the solution was to raise the concrete higher, and instead of a one layer of vapor barrier, they had specified a thicker one, and we ended up putting 2 layers of those on that area, but still we are getting higher numbers. So we did knew and we did plan for it, and there was no specific concrete mix design for this. And the one they had specified, Danco submit the submittal and they meet the concrete requirement, and we did the testing on those as well at that time.
Okay, so if we do this, what's like $27,000 topping, now what kind of guarantee do we have that that topping on top of a 90% humidity slab is going to actually work?
We do have the manufacturer's guarantee with us. I should have included that in the staff report, and I can certainly send that to you.
I trust that you have that. I just, they're just questions that come up because I wasn't sure. I didn't understand. So as long as you feel like with this coating, this top coating, that they will warrant the surface, then I'm fine with it.
That's what they tell us, and that's what's in our warranty.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Brett, do you have comments on this?
No, I don't have comments on this, but I just realized something with yeah, after we make this motion, I just had a question about item E.
Right. There are some questions I have. First question is, did Danco fulfill the contract?
Yes, they did.
Yes.
And the second one is, in this very tight budget environment, would it be harmful to defer doing the coding and have this area being unused and completed at a different time? Or would it have created additional moisture problems that would undermine the whole construction?
Well, the donor has generously offered to pay for the additional costs, so it's no cost to the city to actually have this done. So it's something that the donor and we've been working with Mad River Soccer on since 2016. So that's going on 4 years. And the last element to complete is this surfacing. So of course it's at the council's discretion, but I would recommend that we go forward with it because we have a really generous donor who's been supportive of the project all along, including supporting us going forward with maintenance needs.
Well, we would be voting to authorize spending $25,000. So that 25,000 would come from the donor, because it looked like in staff report there would be 15,000 coming from the donor, and then the other figure that I see is 25,000. So I'm not clear on those, whether there's anything that's going to come out of the general fund of the city to pay for part of this.
Oh no. The entire cost for all of the construction and the servicing is covered by the donor. There's no cost coming out of the general fund or any other city funds.
All right. Thank you for clarifying that. So any other comments from council?
No, I'm ready to make a motion to we approve item. This is D, huh? God, I'm lost.
Yes, it's D.
Yeah, on approve item D.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Watson,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Patino,
Aye.
and I vote aye. All right, and then there's a question on item E.
Yeah, I just, I know we just approved this resolution that was in our packets, and I just want to clarify, when we approve a resolution like this, is it so specific is that no word within it can be changed after the vote is taken? Because there's just a couple little things. I know I had already pointed them out to our city engineer, just some real minor little things like an extra space or stuff like that. I just didn't know if I needed to do a motion to reconsider to highlight these things so we can approve it with changes, or if it's so minor that we can just go ahead and fix those before the mayor signs it.
So are these substantive changes, or these just grammatical changes? Or
the only substantial one, and I don't even know if it's that big a deal, is the first under now therefore the first that city manager. I know that the second one specifically mentions section 5311 projects. So it just seemed appropriate that the first sentence would also have section 5311 projects specified. And then other than that, it's just grammatical. And I don't even, if it's not that big a deal, then we don't have to do anything about it. But I just wanted to make sure, that we were within, that we were okay.
So Karen, comment on it?
So city attorney, feel free to jump in. My general rule, if it's something that's really just a typo, an extra space or a misspelled word, that's, obvious, that we've gone ahead and made those very minor changes. But if we're actually adding or deleting words, that we've gone ahead and done them more formally. But based on what you've heard, Nancy, what do you think?
I have not reviewed this resolution previously, so I am not certain if I think the added language to the very first paragraph is substantive or not. How about if the council considers approving this, subject to an evaluation of whether the revision is substantive? And if it is, then is there a timeline on this resolution?
Well, and I was going to say, we already voted on it. So would we have to do a motion to reconsider?
Yes, you would.
Okay.
You have to reopen it. Based on what you described, it sounded to me as if it was stylistic, editorial.
Yeah.
And not substantive. And I would even be reluctant to change the language for editorial purposes after you've already approved it.
Okay, let's just leave it then. If no one else.
Reconsider. If you'd like us to reconsider and get those changes made, we can do it right now. And
okay. Well, yeah, let's just, maybe that's the, what do you think, Paul?
I think I would let it go.
Okay. I'm fine with that then.
I can give some clarification on that. Just, as this was the template we got from Caltrans. This was like a quickly done. And the only things we have changed is just we put City of Arcata, and we have not changed anything. And we could change it, but I think we would maybe want to check with them before we make any changes to their resolution template.
Yeah.
Recently, HTA approved the exact same resolution with just instead of City of Arcata, there's HTA written on it. So it was approved last week. Again, I would say Caltrans prepared this in rush because this is CARES Act Phase 2 fund. So there might be some minor errors in that, but we want to be consistent and we want to submit the same exact template they had given us to us.
Yeah, something I just didn't know, so I just wanted to make sure. And that's totally, if the council is comfortable with that, then I'm totally fine with that. So, and I imagine that if there is an issue, that the staff will bring it back. Good.
Definitely.
Cool.
Thanks.
So
thank you.
And then I also just had a couple other comments, if it was okay, Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
So one I noticed, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say anything right now, because I noticed on special meeting agendas, we don't have a section for staff and council reports. And so I noticed that, I recognize that usually a special meeting is intended for, maybe kind of a last minute, kind of almost sort of an emergency situation, or just, meeting outside regular meetings. And, maybe, for example, this meeting, I think, was initially intended just to reapprove the emergency declaration. But then it kind of, I think, transformed into seemingly more of a regular meeting. So, just so it has the most flexibility, it seems to me that I don't see the harm in adding staff and council reports to special meeting agendas as a regular practice. And so, we are allowed to report out. My interpretation of the Brown Act is our agenda needs to give the public a clear, just a clear idea of what's going to happen at the meeting. So I don't even know if we can give staff and council reports, and maybe the city attorney can clarify that. And in addition, I know, we also don't do agenda setting for special meetings, and I can see if, it's kind of a last minute call. We need to have a special meeting within a day or two. But on the meetings where we do plan them out, sometimes a couple weeks in advance, and multiple items do start to pile up on the agenda, I just wonder if the council feels it would be appropriate to make that a practice, to have agenda setting, and as well as to add staff and council reports.
So to address some of your questions, Councilmember Watson, this is Nancy Diamond, City Attorney. The purpose of a special meeting is to be much more flexible than the regular meeting, and so it can be called on 24 hours notice. And the Brown Act does not require, for example, there be general public comment. It only requires that there be public comment on the items specifically noticed. It does not require that there be any of the other, advanced process that you're talking about. Now, the City Council could certainly do that as additional process if it feels that's appropriate, but I would just simply suggest that in doing so, you do lose flexibility around being able to call a special meeting quickly if that is needed. So I understand that this is a little different than the item comes up and needs to be addressed, because this was something that needed to be taken up to keep the COVID-19 emergency ongoing, that the proclamation ongoing, and so it was known in advance that it would need to be done now. So I don't know if you want to consider maybe a more formalized special meeting that has that kind of process and still leave open the possibility of the
So are you saying maybe just kind of add like a, if it's to our protocol manual or municipal code, I guess, an option for a more formal special meeting that's basically, it's basically a regular meeting that is just outside of the regularly scheduled first and third Wednesdays?
Yes, something like that. It's a suggestion if the council's interested.
Yeah.
The council's agenda is controlled by, the regular agenda format is controlled by a resolution. So you might want to consider a resolution to do that. But again, it's, I would like to hear the city manager weigh in and the rest of the council. And it is something that the council could do if interested.
And could you just, on the last question, are we required by the Brown Act to have agenda setting?
No,
Okay.
That is not a requirement of the Brown Act.
Thank you.
And that's not, it's not required for the regular meetings or the special meetings. That is just a process Arcata follows.
So yeah, I guess that's where I'm kind of coming from, is because we've decided on our own in the past to have agenda setting for regular meetings, which to me is a meeting that we've planned in advance and there is a more formal agenda for. If we have a special meeting that basically meets that criteria, it's just outside of our first and third Wednesday meetings. It's in advance, and we see multiple items coming up that need to be discussed. Just to be in parity with our practice, if it makes sense to perhaps have a third option for a meeting, regular meeting, special meeting, and then a more formal special meeting, I guess, where it would be like a regular meeting with agenda setting.
Then I'm sorry to interrupt, but I would also say that none of this discussion is on the agenda. So cool. I think maybe if you would like to request this to be put on a future agenda, you use the protocol manual channel for doing that, because we don't have a placeholder even on this agenda for future items.
Sure. So I think, no, I appreciate that. Thank you. And so I think the way we can answer this question without talking about it is there interest in the council in talking about this at a future meeting? And if there's not, then I feel like that answers the question.
And again, it's not on the agenda.
Right.
So
I'm just asking if there's interest in putting it on a future agenda.
I'm not interested at this point, right, because I regard this as being just as related to the fact that we skipped the first meeting of the month. So I don't think it's something that would continue into the future.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know, I have a question about it myself. And the issue for me comes up is I get this on Friday and I really don't have any time to work out all this communication about what's in the vapor barrier and what's a vaulted toilet. I mean, so for me, it's a little bit too tight. We got a meeting on Monday. I had meetings this morning. So I really don't have time to like figure out the answers to my questions, which are pretty perfunctory. Maybe just having if we have a larger agenda, it would give us more time. I don't know.
Yeah. So maybe a discussion at on a future agenda about special meetings, Paul?
Well, sure. I appreciate having that. I'm not sure. I'm kind of locked up here with Nancy. Are we talking about this now or do we need
We're just talking about it later. That's my
No,
understanding.
you are actually talking about it now. You are having a discussion which is not on the agenda. And I
Right.
really suggest, in spirit of everything you're asking and in light of Brown Act requirements, that you no longer discuss this
Okay.
and you use your protocol that is in the protocol manual for placing an item for discussion on the agenda.
Right. So that's all I'm trying to do is ask if there's interest.
And
by majority.
And I'm suggesting that you can't even do that because it is
Okay. We do
not
that all the time in council reports.
But there's no council report item on the special.
You just said though we didn't need one because it's a special meeting and we have flexibility under the Brown Act.
I said the intent of the Brown Act is to create flexibility so it can be done quickly for items that come up.
Okay. I appreciate that. So I
Not
will
say you can
talk
talk
about
about things not on the agenda.
Thank you. So I will talk with the mayor about it and we can talk about it at a regular meeting if we need to. And thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and one last thing for me, I didn't realize that we didn't have staff report and council report until you brought it up. So I assumed it was in there just because we look at this stuff all the time and I get jaded. I missed it. I didn't see that those report things weren't in there. So anyways, thank you.
All right, since we have nothing else on the agenda, then we are adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.